love you, man.
All right, everybody. It is Sunday night. It is...
I love you, man.
Oh, thanks for the sub. Fantasy Grounds College has subbed. Also, Fury Bait has subbed. Thank you for the subs, everybody. It is... No, I don't want to show that. That's the Kickstarter. Well, I guess we can look at the Kickstarter. It's up to $334,000. That is not what I meant to show. What I meant to show was this. All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show. That's the show we're doing. This is episode 66. All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show.
I love you, man.
I love you, Lady Shell. All Things Fantasy Grounds Talk Show is meant to teach and help, but the opinions stated by the four of us on the show tonight are not that of Smiteworks, USA LLC, or Fantasy Grounds. Before we get to our guest, let me introduce my co-host for this evening. First of
Cheer
the
bits.
co-hosts,
Cheer bits in the stream. Thanks for the
College.
cheer bits.
Just interrupting me on purpose. The first host is Fury Fate. How are you this evening?
I'm doing really good.
Well, that's good to hear.
You know you're not actually sharing your screen yet because it's still showing the splash page.
I
thing?
show
Never
on
mind.
stream. Okay, because I see it.
No, it's mine. It's because it's buffering. Whatever.
Okay. You can actually go out and come back, and you'll catch up to the as recent as you can a version of the stream if you want to do that. So good, you're here. We have a special guest co-host, Lady Shell. How are you this evening?
I'm doing fine. Hopefully I'm not all crackly.
You are a little bit, but I think it'll be fine. I think we can deal with it. But we're glad you're here. You are coming to sort of take place from Leroon, but you're your own person, so you're not really in his place. You're just here for an extra person, which we're always glad to have. Our guest this evening, everybody, is Celestian. He is a member of the Fantasy Grounds community for quite a many years, and he is the person that is responsible for building the second edition rule set, among other things, which I'll let him talk about. Here is his desktop that you're seeing on the screen now, and welcome to the show, Celestian. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us. I'm sure that the chat will have many questions, and I'll let you sort of control what you want to show people on your version of the desktop. And I just have one question that I'm dying to ask you. I think you already know what it is, but I wanted to have you explain to people. It has been communicated to us that the WotC versions of the basic modules, the AD&D modules, and the second edition modules will all be run from this rule set, and I want to know how that's done.
So, if you, and I'm fairly certain you played A&D back in the day, right? The 1E version?
Uh-huh.
So when you played back then, didn't you play B2 Keep on the Borderlands?
I did.
Okay, so that's the same premise. Basic, AD&D, and 2E are all mechanically mostly the same. Obviously, basic monsters are a little different than 2E monsters and 1E. They all have their small little variances. But in that's the only difference mechanically. They all use the same kind of AC mechanics to hit mechanics. Whereas AD&D 1E does have the Matrix versus Athaco. Basic used Athaco. So with the extension, you can use the Matrix stuff for 1E if you really want to go. Also, it does some of the ability score differences. They're not exactly the same as 2E as far as that goes. But so if, back in the day when we played it, we just would use the B2 module and we played with AD&D characters and nobody knew the difference. So that's kind of the direction that we're, at least the way I'm doing it. And when I make, like, you can see in the background here, that Temple of the Evil thing. I mean, what I'm trying to do with that, when the creatures, I'm not using the 2E versions of those. So like in 2E, dragons are super tough compared to 1E. 1E dragons are kind of wimps, but I mean, that's the kind of the way they were back then. They were much more common too. So Instead of having, 2 dragons in one place, you would probably want to reduce that and change the age category if you really wanted to use a 2e version of a dragon. But instead, when I convert the module, I'm using the way the module was intended. I put that version of the dragon in there with its stats, its damage, how it works. And I'm doing that as best I can. I mean, I'm hoping that I'm catching everything. If I don't, somebody can certainly point it out. But that's the intent. I want the module to be exactly the way it was intended.
Okay.
Whether you use A&D 1E, 2E, or basic to do that.
Right. And so my concern was that I've been given the task, or I've been given the privilege for me of I'll be converting B2 and B4 from basic D&D, not till next quarter when WotC decides to give it to us, but I'm going to be doing those in this rule set. And so that's what I wanted to know is you say that mechanically the rule set functions the same way for each of the
Cheerbits in the stream. Thanks for the cheerbits.
Cheerbits. Thank you, Lady Shell. Cheerbits. But it functions the same regardless of what, if you're playing basic first E or second E, you can do it all right here.
Adventures.
Yeah, adventures.
There is currently no basic extension to make the modifications if you really want to play the basic version. And again, if you want a real basic, footprint or AD&D 1E footprint, you would need to have a monster manual, and there's some of their spells are different, and the way they do classes in basic, some of them are elf isn't a class, it's not a race, it's elf is the class,
right?
So
what I'm wondering then is are they going to, they being Smiteworks, are they going to have, is somebody going to build the basic rule set? Or are they just going to make a note in the store on the page when you buy, like, say, B2, Keep on the Borderland? They're going to say, this is the basic module adventure, but you'll be playing it with 2E mechanics. Like, are they going to tell people that? Or are they going to say, this can't be put out till somebody builds the rule set? I wondered about that.
I haven't gotten any feedback from that. As far as I understand, as far as I understand, like in 1, the very first adventure is an AD&D 1E adventure, and they said it requires the AD&D 2E rule set. So as far as that goes, that's the only thing I know that they've been putting out there.
All right, because when they put out the developers list, and they sent us all an email saying, I'm sure you got it, that said, here's all the stuff in previous editions. Does anybody want to do any of this stuff? And I jumped on it right away, and I asked them, how am I going to build a basic module when there's no basic rule set? And James Holloway just said, oh, you'll just use the 2E rule set. And I said, okay, I'll ask Celestian about that. But I guess
like I said, the intent is to run the basic adventure in an AD&D rule set as we did back then, or I don't know, I assume you did too. So
yeah, we kind of did it. We did play AD&D, but we also played basic, so it just depended on how we built our characters. But it was mostly,
and we did the same. And we did the same. And we actually early, before we completely moved over to AD&D, we were using AD&D classes in basic. I mean, the systems are compatible. There's no real. It's not like the difference between 1E and 5E, or 1E and 3 or 4E. All those are kind of drastically different, the way they handle mechanics.
Right. And just for clarification, for those people who might be a little younger, who aren't in their 40s or 50s or older, we refer to first edition or 1E, and when you hear that, that's the same as saying AD&D or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So it's kind of like when people say Rocky 1. There is no Rocky 1. There's just Rocky. So there really isn't any first edition. There's no such thing as first edition. It was basic D&D, and then there was AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. But once second edition came out, people then referred to AD&D as first edition. So that's why you hear that. But just so you know, that's kind of how that breaks down. Okay, so good. So what would you like to show us?
I thought we'd walk through kind of doing a create a character.
Excellent.
To kind of show the differences between the 5e and the 2e rule set. I mean, there are a lot of similarities between the two, and that was my intent because I really liked the way the 5e rule set worked. It was very convenient.
Cheerbits in the stream. Thanks for the
there are some differences because AD&D is not exactly the same. So
right.
The first thing you got to do, like you do in 5e, is you got to select a race. But before you do the race, you want to do your ability score. So the way you do that is you do your rolls however it is you want to. There's no clicking it rolls your 46, however it is you roll it. You decide what your stats are going to be. You roll it however you want. But when you want to set them, there's a little gear at the top of this, and this is going to be pretty commonplace everywhere whenever you need a pop-up for some. You can't click on that and change it there. You have to click on here because there's various modifiers that are applied to it. So like if you have 12
Cheerbits in the
strength,
stream. Thanks for the cheerbits.
X 16.
Cheerbits? Oh, maybe I should show your screen here. I just have my screen, so yeah,
you can show you the one. It doesn't matter. As long as you're just kind of showing them what's going on. But so, as I set the base scores here, it's setting a total. And the reason there's all these mods, there's various things that can change that. Your effects can change these. You can, some race things will temporarily change these, spells will change it. So there's a lot of modifiers in here. Like this will modify the base. So if you're familiar with 1E and 2E, the Gauntlets of Ogre Power. When you get that, your strength is not, +4. It is 18 double aught. So you need a modifier that applies to the base score. So that's why this is here. So if there was a magic item and you needed to put it there and it wasn't already pre-configured as with an effect, you would put that in here too. So.
Okay. I was trying to show, I can't follow you on the Fantasy Grounds desktop, so I have to show your desktop on Discord. The problem is that the video is crap. You can't even read can't even see what you're doing. So
is it because my resolution is
well, it's all splotchy. Like I don't know if you can see the stream right now, but
I can.
Yeah, so that's your Discord picture that I'm getting from you sharing your screen, and you can't even read. So now if we go to my screen, it's totally crystal clear. However,
okay. Yeah, you just use yours then. It doesn't really, as long as you're kind of following along and understand what I'm doing and show them the same thing.
That's what I was getting at, is I don't know, I have never seen this before, I don't know how to use it, so I'm completely blind. You'd have to walk me through like I'm a 5-year-old and using this. So I understand what you're saying about the mod, but there's a mod base, and then there's just mod, and there's second mod.
Right. So the base mod is what I was talking about. Like if you had a magic item that it totally changed, you don't get +4 from Gauntlets of Ogre Power. It sets it at 18 double aught. So instead of having like a mod +2 or 3, you would put 18 in the mod base, and the strength percent down below it would be 100, and that would give you 18 double aught. In the case of the item, actually in my rule set, when you get the DMG, the item Gauntlets of Ogre Power will do that as an effect, and so when you're in the combat tracker, it'll automatically have that. So you don't necessarily need to. Those mods are in there in case there is some situation where that thing doesn't exist and you want it. You can go in here and change it in there. Otherwise, all you need to do is set the base fields to whatever it is you've rolled for your ability scores.
Okay.
There is a question for Celestian. If someone did a type of pickup game for 2E, would you be willing to join in?
You mean to play in it? Yeah, it just depends on when. And I play in 2 games. I run one, and I work another job too. And so I'm super busy, but I love to play. I don't get to play that much. So someday, at some point, I want to do something at one of the FGE cons. I just never been able to do it. They've always scheduled them around whenever I'm traveling for my day job.
Right. So they're saying on the stream it might be good to walk through building a character, which is actually what I thought we were doing. So I just made all my ability scores 12 just for simple sake. So now what?
Okay. So like 5e, after you've set your ability scores, you can pick a race now. On the right side, you'll have the race option like you would in 5e. You pick one, you drag and drop it, and if it changes ability scores, it should do that for you. If it adds any kind of abilities or skills, it should automatically apply those as well.
Okay, so I've got to open, I don't have anything open in the library, so let me open the
Player's Handbook is really all you need.
AD&D 2E Player's Handbook. Okay, very good.
Yep.
Open it. Wait. I opened it, but the book didn't open. What the hell? Did everybody see that? I'm not crazy. Oh, there we go. It just took a really long time. Okay. So let's just say I'm going to be a dwarf. Drag over dwarf.
Drag and drop it.
And it gave me infravision.
It boosted your con.
My charisma looks like it went down. And my con went up. And it gave me, I guess on my abilities tab, it gave me ability score increase and armor class bonus, attack bonus detections, and everything else. So yeah, it's all very good.
Okay, so once you've done that, you would, same thing you do in 5e, is you would pick a kit or a background. We don't necessarily have to go into that because those are kind of optional. I don't know how many people use them, but there is a kit system. It's, the analogy between 5e is backgrounds. They're pretty much the same thing between the two versions. And to do those, you would need to load one of the handbooks, like the fighter or cleric or something. But actually, I am incorrect. We need to do a class before we do a kit. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Let's do class. Okay, so let's do cleric. So I will drag over cleric. And then it's giving me level 1 cleric with 0 XP. And I need 1500 XP to get to second level. That I remember that. Oh my god, now it's all coming back to me. And then it gave me, it should have, let's see. It says something about, oh no, just the, on the abilities tab, it's given me priest spells. Okay, good. And then I would have to pick, okay, so I got the class in, very good. And now should you would,
yeah, you can do a kit. Actually, you you can do it. It's not out yet, but I've submitted it Friday,
in the stream.
So
Thanks
you
for the
should be able to load it up, the one that I have. Look for the priest handbook.
Okay. Cheerbits, Lady Shell just went nuts. Lady Shell's gonna be the bit boss for 12 years because she just, priest handbook not available in stores, but I will open it and it'll populate my kit.
Should be soon.
Lady.
You're welcome.
Illusionist, or is Illusionist under Wizard?
Illusionist is wizard, yeah. Okay, so I am a dwarf cleric, so I'm going to choose as my kit Savage Priest. I don't know what the hell it is, but I like it and I'm taking it. Boom. Okay, so now it's asking me, choose one skill, Direction Sense or Weather Sense. So if I look at my skills, it looks like I don't have any so far.
Not yet. Yeah, you have to pick them.
Okay, so I'm going to pick Direction Sense. Because I'd rather know where I am as opposed to, is it going to rain? I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so I got that in there. Very nice.
All right, and so that at that point you would start selecting your weapons, your armor, that kind of stuff, the stuff that you need to adventure, and pick spells. And the way clerics work in AD&D is you don't really have to pick your spells. They are granted. You just select the ones you have for that day. What I generally tell the clerics in my games is say, pick the ones that you're going to use the most. Don't fill up your book with every single, pre-spell, because otherwise your character sheet is just going to get really big and then going to be hard to maintain. So most of them will, put the healing spells in there, and then put the ones that like bless and cure, those sort of things that they use a lot. Wizards are a little different because they're restricted. They only get the ones that's in their book, but priests are a little not the same.
So I'm not looking for cleric. I'm looking for divine. Divine. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I got level 1 divine spells here, and let's just say I'm going to use like detect evil, cure light wounds, and light. Bring those over. Okay. That's me.
So one thing that's a little different is, so you will want to memorize or pray for those. And the the way to do that is you need to be able to have the action buttons up. So if you'll change that down at the bottom, instead of you can go into let me get there. So you can be in preparation mode, but you want the display to be in actions.
Oh,
because you want the buttons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So it's different. So you see the little zeros with the arrows on the left and right. That's where you would select it. So if you wanted to pick one spell twice, you'd right arrow twice or left arrow, whatever. And then as you cast them, it'll remove that slot as used, so that when you try to cast it, it'll say, "Oh, he doesn't have this spell memorized." It'll let you cast it anyways because there may be a reason why you want it. It'll just say you shouldn't. He doesn't have another slot when you push it.
Okay. So I since I only have one tick mark there, and I'm not sure why it won't let me untick it. It's checked my.
You can't. Those are just there for
Okay.
visual. They're just there so you
Okay.
can see them, because the actual part that matters is on the spell itself.
Okay.
So
I choose Cure Light Wounds. I'm gonna pick one of those. And then the other two, I'm not going to pick any. And then I'm going to go to combat mode, which means that it's just going to show me this. And then when I cast it, do I then reduce the number by 1?
If you click the cast button, click the cast button.
Oh my God! See?
That's great. And then it puts up a little X there. Like if you're done with the spell, you can click that X, and because it's no longer memorized, it's saying, "Hey, it'll just remove it."
Whoa,
so
that's very different than the 5e rule set. That's really cool. Okay, so again, you would come, let's say I'm going to prepare one of each of these, even though I don't have... Oh, and it's telling me, no, you can't do that. If you try to prepare more than you have, it's telling you no.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And you can change that, go to the preparation mode, and just up in the slots up at the top, just change the divine on the first slot to however many you want.
Yeah, so let's say it's 2. So then I'm going to prepare Cure Light Wounds and Detect Evil, go to combat. Now when I cast this, I'm done, and then I cast this later, and I'm done, and I'm out of spells. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Okay. The other thing...
Say that again.
It's nicer than the 5e. I wish they had that on 5e.
It kind of is... I mean, the way 5e does it is these things up here remain blank, and then you check them as you use them, and then when you wipe out a whole level, it just takes that whole level away, which is very good, but I think I like this slightly better.
Yeah, it's just the systems were different, and I tried to kind of compensate for it to try to make it a little easier to understand. So the other thing is probably items, and this is, I haven't played 5e in a long time, so I'm not entirely sure. But if you bring up the item records at the top, there's armor, weapons, and gear buttons. Each one of them will bring up a window, and it'll tell you a short little blurb about it and the cost, and you drag and drop that into your inventory just like you would in 5e. Like at the top, I wouldn't use those. You use the buttons at the top, like weapons, armor, and gear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so items.
Yep.
Here, armor. Okay.
Yeah, so there you can just pick whichever ones you wanted. You drag and drop it just like you would. You see the cost. I mean, the reason I suggest using that as a player, because you need to know how much it costs, because it doesn't automatically reduce your money or anything yet. So.
All right, so let's get a cleric, a shield, and chainmail. Screw it. And then we're not going to go through everything, but let's get him a battle axe. And then that's it. We don't need to worry about his candles and his guinea hen and his homing pigeon.
Yes.
Remember? Oh,
it's got a ton of stuff.
That's so funny. All right.
Yeah, the first thing when the player's handbook came out, some dude's like, "Hey, you didn't put in, those little pets." I mean, they call them pets. I can't companions. I think is what they call them. But I was like, I mean, what are you gonna do? I put them in there because the guy asked. I didn't think I would use them, but somebody will, so they're in there.
Yeah, if there's anything that was in these books from the 70s and 80s and you don't put it in, someone's gonna send you an email.
Yep.
Hey man,
and I'm glad for it.
Right.
Yep. I think the guy
Arquebus.
was wanting the goats. He was wanting a goat, so that's why I put all the rest of them in.
That's funny. There's the goat.
But once you've drag and dropped them, all the actions. If you go to your actions tab and go to weapons, it should have all those in there like you would in 5e. Just go to the weapons tab right there.
Oh my god, I'm a -3 on my battle axe. What the hell?
Well, that's because we hadn't applied proficiencies to that, and that's another good thing to walk through. It's kind of clunky. It's not the best way to do it, but the way you will need to do it first is go to skills tab.
Okay.
And then use the little pencil and create a weapon proficiency. Actually, you can also drag and drop if you still got the battle axe thing opened, you could drag and drop a battle axe onto the skills window, and it would create the proficiency there for you.
Oh, very good.
Like that. You can get rid of the other one. And really all it does is it puts the name of the weapon there, and then if you get rid of the edit mode, you can click on it and it'll show you the description of the weapon, I think, is all it really does. In some cases with specialization, those hit and damage modifiers will need to be set. Yeah, the battle axe doesn't have a description, but
okay.
So once you have a proficiency, go back to your actions tab and then click on the gear on the weapon and then hit the pencil and add one. Go to the drop down and select the thing. There you go, like that. And then now you won't have a minus. If you don't have a proficiency applied to a weapon, it's going to use the default non-weapon proficiency. So 5e does the opposite. It says everybody gets +2 to these sets of weapons. A fighter gets +2 or plus. Again, I haven't played 5e enough to know them offhand, but AD&D does it a different way. You're -2 or -3 or -4 depending on what class you are with a weapon you're not proficient with. So.
Right, it's got nothing to do with your strength like it does in 5e.
No, and you can you will get a strength bonus applied to this to hits and damage as well for melee weapons and thrown melee. So that there is another way to do that, and if you go to click the gear button on that weapon, and then move that window kind of to the right of the character sheet. And this is something that I just added. Go to the skills tab again. Now, if you didn't already have that proficiency there, you can click the little the link button on the battle axe proficiency and drag and drop it onto that window.
So,
if you drag and drop the link from the battle axe from your skills onto your proficiency, it would add it if it wasn't already there, instead of having to select it. So
okay,
if you delete it.
So now if I drag this over here, oh wow, cool.
So if you'd rather do it that way, I'm trying to figure out a less clunky way, but it's just really it's not the best way, but I think it works for now.
Yeah.
If I can come up with a better way, I'll change it.
All right. Very good.
All right, so something else, and we'll just do a quick little. I'll set up some orcs, no kobolds.
Oh boy. I'm starting to have stomach issues. I hope I don't have to leave.
Stomach issues?
Yeah, I don't know. My stomach is all of a sudden getting really upset. I think I might be nauseous a little bit even.
From AD&D?
It's from AD&D. Second edition makes me nauseous.
I'm just kidding. No.
So I'll try to go a little quicker. so you don't get stuck on me. But one of the things that, and you'll need to show my side of this so that they can see it. But this is mostly for DMs. But in AD&D, the way initiative works is you need to roll it every round. And a lot of times on virtual tabletops, you don't know who's rolled. You're sitting and saying, "Is everybody rolled? Is everybody rolled?" So whenever you have your players connected at the top left, you'll have the portraits, and on each portrait there is a little 10-sided dice. That means they haven't rolled initiative. So if you will roll initiative now, you can either do it from your front character sheet at the very initiative button there, or you can use the weapon. That orange button on your weapon is also initiative. On the left, if you double click that, that means you're using that weapon for initiative. And so now if you go back to you look on my side, you can see that on Yo-Yo Mofo, which is Rob, it doesn't
Yes,
have
it
the little
is.
red thing, and then on Hey Yo Buddy, it does show it. So it makes it a little easier. And I know it sounds like a little thing, but I also don't like if you tried to roll initiative again, it won't let you. It'll say, "Hey, you've already rolled." And the main reason is because a lot of people in combat, when it's their initiative, they'll hit initiative instead of the attack button, and then it throws initiative all off because you don't know where they're at, and it's now wherever they are now. So
right.
But you can force it, and it tells you how to do that. But you got any questions on how you want?
Actually, this is a good time for me. I am gonna need to run away. I don't know if I'm gonna throw up or what, but I'll leave it on your desktop. So with the stream will see what you are showing on Fantasy Grounds, and then Fury just can take over and run the question and answers until I get back. I will be listening.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean, this is something that I would definitely want you to show me again with the character building, which is great because then we can just watch this on YouTube again. But and maybe make a different character. Because I did get a little bit lost, especially with the spells. I mean, it is different, and the math. I mean, completely different from 5e, which does take getting some used to. But as far as the game mechanics, I mean, when you're attacking with a spell, or since Rob is a little cleric magic user, now when you're throwing with a spell, is it similar to? Sorry, what am I trying to say? Is Fantasy Grounds set up to the way you just click and it's going to tell you whether you hit, miss, and then it does damage, or is there additional things that the players have to do?
No, it is the same way that 5e works. And let me see if I can get a wand of fire. Actually, I need to throw it in the inventory. So now that he's got the wand of fire identified, it shows it down here with all its actions and powers that have already been added. So the way a wand of fire works in AD&D is it's like, you can do fireball, you can do burning hands, you can do walls of fire, I think, some other things. But in this case, what we want to do is I've got Rob, he's targeted the 3 kobolds, and so he's going to cast fireball at him. So the first thing he does is just like you would in 5e is you click you target them, and then you click the cast button. It rolls the saves for all of them. It looks like they all failed. Oh, nope, one made it, and it should have removed one.
This is going to be a bad moment for me. I'm vomiting during fireball.
Dude, don't do that. Don't do that. So yeah, it's not a save and not take damage, it's a save and take half damage, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, so that's why it did not select. So you can see one of them took half, even though it still killed them, and they're only kobolds. And it did kill him. I wish I'd have had this turned on. I don't have it turned on by default, but there is a show rip tokens. So when something's dead, it shows a rip token instead of them. That's what I should have done, but.
But I mean, like if he was to do a cantrip or something, like gosh, I don't know. AD.
So
cantrips for clerics.
there aren't cantrips. There's
okay.
No. You either have an item or scrolls or the actual spell, and it's memorized or prayed for in the case of a priest.
Okay.
One of the things that maybe I should show is some of the skills. The way skills work are kind of different. And we'll go to the priest selection and give him a couple. Religion and spellcraft. And what it does is they are based on an ability score, which is like 5e. In this case, it's its intelligence, and even when you buy the skill with the points that you have, you're still at a -2 with it to start. You can use more proficiency slots, and each one will reduce that by 1 as well. So normally you can't use it at all without that.
So it's instantly whatever you roll -2?
Yes. So in that case, the way the skill check works is it doesn't show up as a -2 on the dice. What it does is it reduces your ability score. So if your ability score in that case was 10, well, actually the ability score is probably 12 because he set them to 12. So you can see that it's showing 10 here, and that's because it's a -2. Intelligence -2. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get 10 or below on the roll. So what it does is it applies the adjustment to the ability score. So if you actually had +2, it would be 12 versus 10, or in this case it would be 14. Maybe that's too much, but in any case, this guy has a 12 wisdom. If you click on that, it'll roll it. And he failed it by 7. There are some situations where you're doing, you're comparing your strength versus another guy's. So you make a strength check, and he failed it by 6. Well, that automatically means that if the other guy wins, if they're playing tug of war, the other guy would roll, and if he made it, then he would win. If he failed, then neither one of them win. But if they both succeed, and I'm trying to get one where he does. There you go. So he succeeded by 4 there. And if the other guy succeeded by 1, that would mean Rob actually won the contest because he succeeded by more than the other guy. So that's what shows success by and whether you succeeded in general. The spell saves are not much different than 5e. There's a lot more versions of it. You have saves versus paralyzation, poison, death, and all the other ones. So generally, your DM will know which ones you need to roll, or the spell will have it set up already, so he can just the person can just click and make all the things he has targeted save.
Okay, it's pretty good. Pretty easy once it's all set up.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. I heard everything. The good thing about, I don't know if other people experience this, but the good thing about throwing up is that after you do, you feel fantastic.
Sorry.
So we'll see if that lasts.
TMI.
So yeah, I guess that milk didn't smell bad, but it must have been bad.
Good to know.
So I did hear that I had failed a bunch of my checks.
You did, but I was just trying to show them how they work. Something else that's a little different. In 5e, I do have the advanced effects extension, so it'll work the same if you use it in 5e. But you'll notice, like for the dwarf here, the dwarf gets a bonus versus orcs and goblins. And you can see whenever you drag and drop that race, it automatically adds the advanced effects. And so if you look at Rob, he actually has it already in the combat tracker. He gets a bonus towards giants and titans and all that to his AC, and then he gets an attack bonus versus orcs and goblins too. So that's another thing it's included whenever you do classes and races and kits, if they have them.
Now, you said that does require the advanced extension?
For 5e, for mine, no, it's built in.
It's built in. Okay.
Yeah, for my rule set, I just took what I did in the 2e rule set and made an extension because the 5e guys were wanting it.
Right. Okay.
I really can't think of anything that's a lot different than 5.
When did you start working on this? In other words, how long did it take you? This just came out like about, 3 weeks ago or something like that?
2017.
Yeah, so 2 years. Oh, yeah. Man.
Keep in mind, I did not know Lua at the time either. So I did program for my job. It's part of my job. So it wasn't something that was completely new. I just needed to learn how the language works, and I'm still learning some of that stuff. But it took me a while to figure out that. But I mean, Fantasy Grounds is actually harder than Lua because there's API stuff that is standard and you have documentation for, and then there's core RPG functions which aren't documented, and you have to just play around with them and kick out debug and see what they're actually doing, and that probably took the most time. I really have alignments with objects controls within a window are really kind of I have a hard time wrapping my head around the way Fantasy Ground does it, so it takes me a long time to align stuff. But
yeah, well, congrats to you on your efforts though, because I know you've worked on this. I didn't know how long, but two plus years. And then now it's out, and now people, because there is a vast group of people that are going to be, I mean, I don't know what the sales numbers are, you probably do, but I'm sure this will do very well. It's not going to be as popular as 5e, obviously, but that doesn't really mean much because this is a 30, 40-year-old gaming system that people that are my age, grew up with and played with when they were kids, and it has never been available on a VTT in an official manner until now. So really, really props to you, my friend, for getting that done. And I know you bugged them and bugged them and bugged them, and you were just a very tenacious little beaver until they said, okay, fine. And then they went and they called, or they, rung up WotC and got the licenses. So it's just an amazing
to be honest, I didn't really think it was going to be possible. Doug initially contacted me probably about 6 months into my first, whenever I first started playing around with Fantasy Grounds, and we went back and forth a couple times. And one of the suggestions was, how about we see? And so from then on, it was like every 2 weeks I sent him an email. What have they said? Have you talked to anybody? Have you done this? Have you done that?
Yeah.
And also, and I can't give Damned enough props. He also motivated me. He kept saying, "Hey, have they said anything? Have you done that? Have you talked to him about this?" Or he helped, push it as well. So it did take a long time. I think a lot of the motivation came as well as people saying, why do you spend so much time on this? Nothing's ever going to happen. They're not going to let you do that. And I just like, you know what? I'm going to keep doing it until they do. Guess what?
Well, I think it worked out because you were doing it out of your passion for that particular edition of the game that you wanted to play or make available to other players and run it yourself and everything. And then, once you got really serious about it, why wouldn't Wizards of the Coast and Smiteworks want to license out stuff that's there? I mean, and so I'm glad it all worked out. I mean, it would have been ill-advised of them to not do it. You know what I mean? So I think
I cannot agree more with that statement.
Yeah. See.
Okay. I do have some questions. 3 questions actually from Diablo Bob. So he's asking, so the spell's cast button doesn't activate all options of the spell, like the effect and all the options?
Correct. No, it does not. That's like 5e. You click the cast to get the save and do the use of it, like a memorized version, or if you're using a wand, it'll tick off a use. If you apply, if they save and then it either applies an effect or it does a damage, you have to click those from the actions buttons list.
His second one was, will there be a complete 2e package and not just 3 core books, but also include the complete handbook? So like I guess a
oh,
super
you mean like
collection.
a bundle like they do for all the different, like Savage Worlds bundle, Cthulhu bundle?
I have no say in that. I have no say in that.
I think
I know that.
Yeah,
I think Doug has mentioned that we need 10 books before they consider that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you got to wait till you get at least like 10 books. But right now
which may not be that long. Oh well,
right, because
there's actually more than 4. There's the DMG, the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, the Complete Fighter, Thief, and Wizard books. The Priest should be coming out soon. The Ranger I'll submit probably by the end of next week. And then TOE is coming. It's going to be close really quickly. So I don't, and
Yeah.
again, I don't know what they're going to do. I have no clue. I have no say. I can't. I have no say in how much they cost either. So
Right. Wizards of the Coast sets those prices, but
yeah.
but yeah. So bundles are generally when they have enough to bundle. Like they're not going to bundle 4 or 5 things. I think as Celestian said, Doug said it's 10 minimum. Also keep in mind that they tend not to bundle things together that are like they would bundle rule books separate from adventures. But what they might do is if they get 10 books, make a bundle, and then when they get 10 adventures, split that off into a bundle, kind of like they redid the bundles for 5e. They had just one bundle and then they made it 3 at some point. But it all depends on what materials available as to how they do that. But that might be a good question to email Smiteworks themselves and email Dave or Doug and ask them what's up with that.
Yeah.
Maybe an official
and if you have a problem with some of the price, if you think it's too high, definitely email Doug or post and let them know. Say I think this is too high, or if you don't, you say I bought it because it was price point was great, so they can kind of have an idea of what's the customers want.
And then Bob's last question was, do the dead tokens actually switch the tokens or use the bitmap widget?
It's a
which
widget.
Is the bitmap
It's a widget
thing, yeah.
So that means that it's still buggy, just like any of the other widgets. So if your memory is kind of used up with all your images, it'll not work half the time, which is frustrating. But I can't. That's Fantasy Grounds. I can't get around that right now. Hopefully, with FGU with this 64-bit application, we'll clean up some of that. My understanding is it's a memory issue.
Cool. Does anybody else want to throw up?
No.
Okay.
If I'd have heard you, I probably would have.
That's funny. A lot of people, they're like, how can you talk about it, especially when you just did it? Talking about it doesn't make me nauseous. Just being nauseous makes me nauseous. But I'm not nauseous anymore. But I had, I don't think I've thrown up for, I don't know, a couple of years. But, and it's definitely from something I ate or something, you can kind of tell. But there was a point before my liver transplant, when I was really sick, I would throw up multiple times a day. It just got to be something that I did and got used to. That's how often it would happen. And so it doesn't, like when I was a kid, it really, like I'd have to take the day off if I threw up because it was so bad. Now it's just a thing that happens. But like I said, it hasn't happened for a couple of years. I can't remember before today the last time that happened to me. So enough about that. Good.
Digital Prophet asked a question about the Ranger Priest Handbook. When they'll come out, I can't say. I submitted the Priest one on Friday, so it's got to go through WotC's Q&A. And like I said, the Ranger one I'll submit probably this coming Friday if all goes well. Generally, it's been about 2 weeks for each one. So.
Yeah. Normally, I've submitted. I've submitted about 40 plus things to Smiteworks. So for those of you that don't know, that are interested in that process, if it's a third party thing, it's usually a much shorter turnaround. So you submit it to them. If it's error free and you don't have to make any adjustments to it, Smiteworks has to get Steam approval because they put simultaneously in the Smiteworks store and also on Steam. So that can take a couple, 3 days, even up to a week. But if it's a WotC property, it has to go to them first, and they can take up to 2 weeks to approve it. Then after that, they then have to still get Steam approval. So it has to go through so many hoops when the developer turns in material. Like I'm probably going to turn in Acquisitions Incorporated tomorrow or the next day, but it doesn't matter because the release date is not going to come out any earlier than June 18th. But I got to get it in as early as I can because WotC needs 2 weeks. And this is provided that what I turn into them tomorrow is a perfectly, unerrored thing, which there's no way to know. I mean, I turn it in error-free as far as I know, but then they might come back and say, oh, what about this? What about that? So it really takes a long time to get approved. So when Celestian finishes any of these modules, these handbooks for the different classes and stuff, once it's out of his hands, he can't do anything about it, but it still might be a week or two before you see it in the store. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I said, it's been about 2 weeks.
I was gonna say, Shadzar had asked a question about how many issues of Dragon Magazine 2e era are planned to release in FG.
That was not on the list of things I submitted
0 maybe?
initially.
Yeah. They sent a big giant list.
Yeah, that list was the list I made.
Yeah. Oh, you made that list. Okay.
Yes,
And
I made
so-
it and submitted it as a proposal when we initially did it. These are the things I think should be converted, and I
Gotcha.
gave them the list. And
Okay,
they
so yeah.
didn't turn down anything, so I don't think that they would refuse any product. I mean, their settings are kind of going through some discussion. I don't know what's going on with the settings, but anything outside of that, I think is fair game. Obviously, you'd need to talk to James and Doug and
Yeah.
get approvals for it. But
And the interesting, oh Christ, I lost my thought.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's just because I'm old and I forget like instantly what even in the middle of a sentence, I'll forget what I'm talking about. It's nobody's fault but my brain. But it was something to do with the material that they say is okay. Oh, yeah, I know what I was gonna say. So I don't know why this is. I've just been told it is, but I don't know why it is. That Wizards of the Coast is only releasing a set amount of materials to Smiteworks on a quarterly basis. So again, no idea why, but when I said that I wanted to be the one to convert B2 and B4, they said, okay, great, but you can't do it until next quarter. And I was like, okay. And they said, yeah,
I've got a little
can you
insight
shed a
on
little
that.
light on that? Yeah, I don't know what their reasoning for that is.
So it's not that they won't. It's just that they have to go through a process to send us the PDFs, and they don't want to have to do that every other day. They want to do it at a lump time. Initially, early on, Initially, they were, when we were walking through some of this, they were okay with doing that, and they did it for me for several things. But now that we're kind of in the cycle, they want James has to build a list of things. Say, come July, we want. You shouldn't say I want all these on July when that date opens up, and then if you're going to be done with all that and you want some in October, tell him that too, and say I want these in October, so that whenever those quarters come around, they automatically request those. I don't think there's a limit on those. I think it's mostly just their process it makes it easier for them to say, all right, this time of year we go and get this.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense because there is some physical person that has at the Seattle office that has to go compose a group and upload them to the Google Drive or whatever the hell it is they do. That someone has to actually do that work, and rather than, like you said, having to do it every other day, they just do it once a quarter. That makes total sense.
Yep.
I just didn't know what the reasoning was, so I'm glad you told me that. Yep. And now everybody
So to
knows.
answer Shadzar's question, yeah, and in fact they give us those PDFs from
yeah, they're actual real like PDFs that people would kill for to have that will never be sold.
Like there are some that are like
to
that.
This point, yeah. Like for example, Acquisitions Incorporated that I just did, which I was not allowed to show on stream or even show anybody. They told me expressly. That's an actual PDF. It's just you just open it like any other PDF. But Wizards of the Coast doesn't do that. They sell books, and they don't sell PDFs. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are mad at them for that because like Paizo sells PDFs, and even if you buy the PDF, you get a discount off the book and this and that. But Wizard just hasn't been their business model, so they don't sell PDFs.
Right, and this is a different case for the 2e stuff because it's older. The only stuff that isn't in PDF is the stuff that they reprinted recently, the revised Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, DMG, the A1 through 4 and S1 through 4. Those books that they reprinted, those were in InDesign, but everything else is PDF, and it comes from DriveThruRPG. So
yeah.
For the 2e stuff, at least has been.
Right. Well, they like the files that Zacchaeus gets and that I get, and that if Doug does one or whatever the WotC files are, those are all InDesign as well. But they do have a PDF. I don't know InDesign. I don't even have InDesign, so I couldn't open that. But
yeah, you do. You've got a license for Adobe.
No, not anymore. I have Well, here's what happened. I had the Adobe suite. I had everything because I had the student rate, which was like $20 a month, really cheap. But I lost my student status, and now it's like $60 a month, and I'm like, no. So now I only have Acrobat and Photoshop. And I never used half that shit anyway, but I just had it because it was really cheap. But yeah, I've never even opened InDesign. I don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah, I didn't make use of them other than to peel the art out and use them for the monster manual, the 3 big books, because the art in those were much better than the PDFs. I already had the text content already, so it wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
I think Digital Prophet asked about TOE. The progress on it, it's I want to say 90% done. I just need to go through all the encounters. Everything is done except for the placement of spawns. So, like when you click an encounter, where they spawn on the map, and that's mainly because I need to get the maps approved to make sure they're okay with the maps. Because if I go in there and set them all, and then they're like, "Hey, we don't want those maps. We want you to do something else," then I got to go redo it anyway. So, but TOE it's just on the verge of being done.
I had a question about like the rule set itself. If you like, does it cover in the manual, like in the reference manual for the player's handbook, let's say, does it tell you about Fantasy Grounds stuff and how to use it, or is it literally just a word for word copy of what the book is?
The player's handbook is a word for word copy of the player's handbook.
Okay. So the only way you're going to learn how to use the rule set is to watch this or go on the forums and talk to people or trial by error and that kind of thing.
Right. And I did put a tutorial video together back into January.
Oh, very good.
I think right before I broke my leg, I did it, and it's pinned in the AD&D Fantasy Grounds channel. And it's basically walks through, and it does all the stuff we did in that plus I went through every little thing I could possibly think of and threw it on there. I want to do the same thing for the DM, but that is much more complex. I'm also not sure if that's the best medium for it either. I have so much stuff that I want to do. I just, I have only so much time to take.
Okay, so I'm gonna find that for people on the forums. And is it called Classic D&D? Is that what the? Yeah, AD&D.
D&D Classic. The forum is D&D Classics. I would love to have my own group for 2E, or AD&D, but they wanted to put it in Classics, and they've also it may be confusing to some other guys from back in the day. They call it D&D Classics on the store, and the decal defaults to D&D Classics, and I think that's just to keep from confusion people thinking advanced D&D is better than 5e. They don't want to. I think that I can understand people would think, oh well, the advanced one is a more advanced version, so they don't want to put that out there and make them think, oh, we should use this one instead of that one. So
right.
That's my thought. Again, I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, they're very brand Nazi-ish, which is totally understandable. You got to make sure you pick something and stick with it. So I'm trying to find that video. What's the name of the forum thread that the video's in, the tutorial video?
Give me a second. Let's see.
How can I enchant a silk robe? Somebody said. Who are you, Hugh Hefner? Monstrous manual, remember? Funny.
I'll send you a link in the Discord, and you can paste it for them.
Okay, good. Here we go. Okay. So I'll put this in the channel for everybody, so you guys can. I think I'll put it in the channel. What happened? Didn't work. Okay, there it is. Oh, it's there twice. Or well, you put some other different link in there. I don't know what happened.
No, mine's the same as yours.
Oh, yours, yeah. It's just because our names are. It looks different in
Longer.
the chat because the names are longer. So there you go, guys. If you want to go and look at the tutorial, I'll try to remember to include that link in the video when I put it on YouTube as well, so people don't have to go dig for it if they watch this later. Because I'm sure people will want to watch us go through that character thing and then listen to the explanations of the dude that built it. If you want to listen to anybody, you want to listen to the guy that made it. Unless it's Bill Gates. Maybe you don't want to listen to him.
One more quick, the default square distance. Is it 10 feet, or can you change the distance to 5 feet preference?
And when I saw the question, I popped up the map and put my pointer on where that setting is. But if you go, when you add a map and you set the grid size, you have some options that are at the top of the map. You click the hash. The little field at the end is, you can put that to whatever you want. It can be 10 feet, 5 feet, 2 inches, 3 miles. It doesn't matter. You can set it, and then the measurements will reflect that. So if you change it, it'll say whatever you change it to.
Oh, cool.
So by default, it defaults at 10 feet. 5e doesn't have that. I think 5e is everything is 5 foot. So
yeah,
I wanted to be able to set it to 10 foot because that's what we used back in the day. But if you want to change it to 5 foot, you certainly can. You just set the scale to however you want and set it there.
And if you got an overland map, you can set it to, 1,000 feet or whatever, anything like that.
Or 12 miles. It doesn't matter. The FT or MI or whatever yards, you can use whatever you want. It'll just append that to whatever the measurement is. So
cool. All right, guys, if you have final questions, let me give away a prize here. We always try to give away at least one prize. Let me do that. Give away a prize. Where's the thing? It's here. I know it's here. Here it is. So I'm gonna run a raffle in the channel. If you want to get in it, type "you know it!" ! You know it in the chat, and this will be for a DM's Guild item that you don't have, whoever the winner is, and we'll let that timer run for 2 minutes. Any final questions you guys have, type them in that chat so we can get to them. And also, just as a reminder, and I'll put this link in the chat as well, if you guys have ideas for the shows, next week we're going to be doing Ghosts of Salt Marsh. It comes out on Tuesday, so we'll go over it and show it on Sunday, but it comes out on the 21st on Tuesday. So if you don't buy it early, then we'll show it to you, and maybe that'll help you make your decision of whether you want to buy it or not. But we do have an Idea Informer page just for this show. So I know most of you guys know about the Idea Informer for Fantasy Grounds itself. We have one for this show. So if you guys have ideas you want to see, go ahead and go to that link that's in the chat now and tell us what you'd like us to do a show on. And I get an email every time anybody posts anything there, so I will see it. I think Furied and Leroon also get emails. I'm not sure if that's true. Is that true, Furied?
Yep,
You do?
do.
Okay, good. So, any final words from our special guest, Mr. Celestian? I don't know that it's Mr. Celestian, but it's Celestian.
you can just call me Mike.
Mike, okay. I don't. Yeah, a lot of people. I knew your real name, but a lot of people.
No,
don't know.
yeah, you can use my real name. I don't care.
Okay, so yeah, if you go to anybody that's, I think if you go to Fantasy Grounds store or Steam and look up who made the modules, they don't use like Zacchaeus or Celestian or Rob2E. They use the real names, which mine is Rob2E, but it's not Rob2E, it's Rob2E. There's a distinct difference in how you say those. So yeah, any final words, Mike, for all of our lovely viewers to impart, aside from second edition is awesome and get it?
I don't know. I'm just glad that it's out there now so that people can have it. That was kind of, I didn't want it to just be me and my group. I wanted everybody to have it. If I could have done it for free, I'd have done it a long time ago. But since it's not my copyright, I don't own it. I can't do that. So I'm just happy it's out there for everybody now.
Yeah, really cool. All right, and Lady Shell, how about you? Any last comments or questions from you?
Well, I thank you for inviting me to be a guest host. I guess it would be a guest or sub-host or whatever.
Guest host sounds
Replacing
much better than sub host. Sub host sounds
So,
like you're getting whipped by noodles or
like I'm
something
subpar or something.
bad is happening. Yes. So guest host.
Anyway, I appreciate being able to be on the show, and I love the presentation here. I do have the modules myself, and I'm hoping to write an article on the differences between 5e and 2e, and maybe for people that only have played 5e, why you should give 2e a try.
Oh, I like that a lot. I want to see that article because I'm interested to know what your research turns up about the major differences. And I know, having played, and actually I've never played 2E, I've lived my whole life never playing second edition, but I did play AD&D and I played basic D&D, and I know that second edition isn't that much different, but it is a different version of the game. So I'm really excited that this is out there now too, so it can give me something else to try. Because even though I'm a 5e guy, I'm only 5e because that's what's happening now. But I'm a D&D guy at heart, so I'm down for anything as long as it's D&D I'm in. So thank you for being here. What about Fury Fate? Any final questions or comments?
No, but I mean, definitely, this is definitely an episode to rewatch, especially for character making. And we hope to actually have you here, maybe on a different time, different show, to actually maybe go in depth into different character making.
Yeah, I
so that way
think
everyone knows what they're doing.
Once all the
like a little mini series.
Yeah, I agree. Once all the books come out, once all the different books that you have to do for all the classes and stuff are done, maybe have you back and we can each make a different character and see some of the differences for 2E, and people might be a little more excited to, as long as they have everything to pick from. Like right now, not all the the Ranger book isn't out and so forth. So once they're all done, maybe we'll have to come back and when you have another hour to spend with us and go through some more detailed, dive a little deeper.
Sounds good.
All right, very good. Well, in that case, let me put up the slides for people. And let me once again thank my special guest, Mike, Mr. Celestian, for coming by, my guest host, Lady Shell, and of course Fury Fate, who was with me. And we will go ahead and shut her down. And hope to see you back here tomorrow. Anybody that's interested, I'll be making modules tomorrow on the stream for Module Creation Monday.
Cheerbits in the stream. Thanks for the cheerbits.
McClancy 10,006 cheerbits. And thanks, guys. Thanks to everybody for the cheerbits and the subs and the follows and the donations tonight. Really appreciate that. Help the stream stay alive, and it means a lot. And I'm glad that everyone was here tonight. If you're watching on YouTube after the fact, try and join us live on Sunday nights where we give away prizes. So let's do that. The winner of the prize is Diablo Bob. So Diablo Bob, you know what to do to claim your prize. You get a hold of me. It's totally rigged, and you know what? People can't see it on the screen, so I will change it back to see, because people didn't actually see that. But here it is. I drew the winner, and it was Diablo Bob. So there you go. But yeah, join us. Join us, and by the way, I've turned off the voice. The Celestian is still saying things, but his voice is off. The stream can't hear you. But anyway, gotta end it. So thanks everybody again, and hopefully you'll come back and see us tomorrow night, and all the nights that we have shows here on Channel Rob Toohey. And until that time, good gaming, everyone.